They weren't the first to do this. It was Blake Lively, it was Ryan Reynolds, this was their strategy, and now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle, but guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle.
Ryan Reynolds, the sarcastic, lovable star who charmed audiences as Deadpool and built a reputation as Hollywood's fun-loving nice guy. That's the image we've come to accept. He's the quick-witted actor with a cheeky grin, a seemingly perfect marriage to actress Blake Lively, and a social media presence that's equal parts banter and self-deprecation. But behind the scenes, an entirely different portrait seems to be emerging, a portrait that reveals insecurity, temper tantrums, and a ruthless streak that Hollywood insiders have reportedly covered up for far too long.
Says he had quite an experience demanding his makeup artist show up or get fired. I'll share that story for you.
It all started with a leaked story about a makeup artist who supposedly received a shocking ultimatum from Ryan himself, demanding they fly back from out of the country or risk being blacklisted forever. That alone raised eyebrows, but the more details came out, the more a pattern began to form. Rumors of controlling on-set behavior, humiliating coworkers, and pushing directors out of their own projects suddenly didn't sound so far-fetched. Add to that the fact that multiple exes, one of them being Scarlett Johansson, have described him with words like jealous and insecure, and you realize this might not be a random fluke.
So gross and weird and manipulative, even if it's true. It's so just, this movie somehow was a magnet for awful people.
Is this the same Ryan Reynolds whose entire brand is built on comedic good guy charm? Or have we all been fooled by a carefully orchestrated PR image? In the next few minutes, we'll pull back the curtain on the controversies swirling around him, the meltdown that nearly cost a makeup artist their career, the friction with directors and co-stars, and the A-listers who've cut ties with him altogether. Buckle up, because this is the side of Ryan Reynolds that Hollywood doesn't usually let us see, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
Ryan Reynolds, by all accounts, seems like a great guy. He is acting. By all accounts, he is a total pain in the ass.
This story kicked off the most recent wave of criticism surrounding Ryan Reynolds. Fox News, typically not the first outlet you'd expect to break juicy entertainment stories, ended up at the center of this revelation. According to an inside source who spoke to them, Ryan was in the middle of shooting a follow-up to the smash hit Deadpool when he needed some reshoots done. His personal makeup artist, someone who presumably knew exactly how to achieve the signature look for his character, happened to be out of the country on another project. In Hollywood, that's not unusual. People behind the scenes juggle multiple gigs, especially if filming schedules shift around. But to Ryan Reynolds, it was apparently unacceptable.
One of those guys. So they are absolute bullies.
The source claimed that Ryan threatened this makeup artist with a harsh ultimatum: either come back immediately or never work in Hollywood again. It's one thing to be disappointed when your go-to stylist or makeup artist isn't available. It's another to demand that person drop everything or face blacklisting. Yet that's precisely what he's accused of doing. And the astonishing part is that higher-ups in the studio supposedly felt pressure to comply. Ryan, by then, wielded near-total creative control over the Deadpool franchise, a position he'd reportedly secured after the first film's blockbuster success. If someone is holding all the cards, it becomes a lot harder for the rest of the team to push back, especially if they fear for their own careers. Talk about a power move, right? It's not every day an actor, rather than a studio head, has enough authority to make or break careers with a single phone call. And if you think this is some one-off meltdown, keep watching. This story is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the lengths Ryan Reynolds apparently goes to maintain control. But that wasn't even the worst glimpse of his on-set tyranny.
Ryan Reynolds on the Enneagram is a psycho. That's what he is. He's just a psycho. His number is psycho.
Blake Lively, her brand, Ryan Reynolds' brand, have totally been tarnished by this because the world now sees them for who they are. They cannot act their way out of this.
The enormous success of the original Deadpool is often attributed to the unique blend of comedic writing, Ryan's charismatic performance, and the creative vision of director Tim Miller. Miller, who had come from a visual effects background, poured his heart and soul into crafting that R-rated, sharp-tongued anti-hero film that we all fell in love with. Then, to everyone's surprise, he didn't come back for Deadpool 2. The official narrative claimed it was a friendly parting due to creative differences, but subsequent interviews painted a far more intense picture.
An ongoing feud with Ryan.
Who?
You know that guy. What's it gonna take for him to actually be BFFs with you?
Well, I mean, in truth, there was a time in which we...
Tim Miller hinted that Ryan Reynolds had demanded final say on nearly every significant decision for the sequel. While star input is nothing new, people close to the production remarked that Ryan's approach was especially rigid. Miller explained that he wasn't willing to fight over every choice, implying that Ryan's thirst for creative control was insatiable. In other words, Ryan took the success of the first film and leveraged it to become a one-man authority, pushing out the very director who'd helped turn his dream project into a global phenomenon. But the chaos didn't stop there. Morena Baccarin, who played the lead love interest in the first Deadpool, went from being front and center to virtually sidelined in the sequel. Rumors swirled about a disagreement on set, perhaps nothing earth-shattering at first, just a routine difference of opinion. Yet Ryan Reynolds, according to insiders, decided to freeze her out, drastically shrinking her role. She was MIA from major press events and group photos, almost as though he wanted to erase her from the franchise's narrative altogether. Whether that's true or not, the shift in her on-screen prominence was undeniably stark.
It's pretty obvious that he's not joking about not being friends with Ryan Reynolds. You see that Jake Gyllenhaal has also unfollowed Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, and Blake Lively. But apparently he didn't unfollow them until they had already unfollowed him.
A controlling streak like this suggests that the makeup artist incident wasn't just an isolated meltdown. It's part of a broader pattern, one that indicates Ryan is willing to push people aside the moment they challenge him. The question is, why would a man who presents himself as everyone's favorite funny guy stoop to such power plays? Turns out, co-stars have more to say on the matter.
I'm really bad at keeping a straight face around TJ Miller. Everyone knows that on our set. We lost days to me, yeah.
If you've watched the first two Deadpool films, you'll remember TJ Miller's role as Weasel, Wade Wilson's talkative sidekick, who injects extra comedy into many scenes. Behind the scenes, though, TJ eventually revealed he had a significant falling out with Ryan Reynolds. Rather than describing it as a minor misunderstanding, Miller called Ryan's behavior weirdly mean and even horrifically rude.
Strangers describe me as
extremely disloyal.
He specifically recalled Ryan launching into humiliating commentary in front of the entire crew. On one occasion, Ryan, in character, told TJ something along the lines of, "You're not the star. You just add enough exposition so we can move on to the real movie." That doesn't sound like playful ribbing between friends, especially when it's delivered in front of an audience of coworkers who are all looking at you for a reaction. Miller, a comedian used to sarcastic banter, said he felt the vibe was anything but comedic. It was an ego flex, pure and simple. What's particularly telling is that Miller, a man known for comedic improvisation, couldn't just shrug it off. He described a hostile environment, with Ryan constantly reminding everyone who the real star was. Some speculated that Miller's personal controversies at the time may have influenced the dynamic, but others suspect that Ryan simply doesn't tolerate any comedic competition overshadowing him. Either way, the bitterness was real, and it added another piece to the puzzle. Ryan Reynolds might not be the supportive comedic partner he often pretends to be in interviews, but he's not just clashing with co-stars. Even his Hollywood best friends are ghosting him. Not too long ago, Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal were the ultimate Hollywood bromance. They did press tours together for the sci-fi thriller Life, cracking jokes and teasing each other in ways that had fans swooning over their cute dynamic. Some even thought they might collaborate again soon. Then, quite abruptly, all signs of that friendship disappeared. When recently asked about Ryan in an interview, Jake's mood flipped in an instant. He reportedly responded coldly, saying, "I have nothing to say about him." That's an unusual shift from the playful banter they once displayed publicly. People who follow these celebrities on social media also noted that Jake unfollowed Ryan and even Blake Lively, something that doesn't go unnoticed in the digital age. There was no big blowout scene or official statement. It was simply radio silence where laughter and hugs once existed, given Jake's reputation as a low-key, respectful actor. This sudden change suggests something went very wrong. He's not known for stirring drama or airing personal grievances. So, for him to cut ties and go silent speaks volumes. It's like the old saying, if you have a friend who rarely complains but suddenly ghosts someone, you can bet there's a serious reason behind it. Speculation points to the filming of Life, during which Jake and Ryan seemed buddy-buddy. Perhaps Ryan's rumored controlling tendencies became too suffocating, or maybe personal slights were exchanged behind closed doors. We may never get the full story, but the tension is evident, and it's not just Gyllenhaal who's had enough. Keep watching, because Ryan Reynolds hasn't exactly been endearing himself to any of his co-stars lately. Another star from life, Rebecca Ferguson, shared a story about working with an insecure and angry co-star who made the set nearly unbearable for her. She didn't name names outright, but the conclusion fans drew was that it had to be Ryan Reynolds or Jake Gyllenhaal. Considering Jake tends to keep a respectable distance and rarely draws negative headlines for on-set tension, it's easy to guess who the main suspect is. According to Ferguson, this individual was so difficult to work with that she opted to perform scenes with a tennis ball as her reference point rather than deal with the star in person. That's an extreme measure, typically reserved for special effects or action shots, not for avoiding an actor in a standard dialogue scene. She also mentioned that after she spoke out, she was warned she had gone too far. Hollywood is known to circle its wagons around powerful, bankable leads, so the fact that no one came to her defense on set implies someone wanted to keep everything hush-hush. The word insecure keeps popping up when describing these encounters, pointing to a deeper issue that might be driving Ryan Reynolds' combative behavior. If he's built his public identity around being the comedic good guy, any real-life challenges to that role could stir up anger or panic. And according to these accounts, he handles those challenges by being manipulative, controlling, or just plain rude. But if you're thinking it's only colleagues calling him out, buckle up. His past relationships reveal an equally tumultuous pattern. It's not every day that two high-profile women describe their mutual ex using remarkably similar terms. Yet Scarlett Johansson and Alanis Morissette both hinted at the same underlying trait, Ryan's crippling insecurity. Scarlett, who married Ryan Reynolds in 2008, described him as passive-aggressively jealous. She didn't dive into all the specific details, but the suggestion was that whenever she soared in her career or earned accolades, he would withdraw or grow resentful in ways that felt controlling rather than supportive. Meanwhile, Alanis Morissette, who was engaged to Ryan for 3 years, chronicled her heartbreak in the album Flavors of Entanglement. One notable line pointed to someone who was unbelievably insecure, leading fans to believe she was talking about none other than Ryan. The abruptness of their breakup at the time raised eyebrows, and Alanis later explained that the relationship fallout left her devastated. It doesn't take a relationship expert to connect the dots. If these two successful women both describe him as jealous and insecure, there's probably more than a kernel of truth there. Scarlett went on to massive success in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while Ryan floundered in projects like Green Lantern before hitting gold with Deadpool. When a husband feels overshadowed by his wife's success, friction is bound to happen, especially if he believes he's supposed to be the bigger star. After the marriage ended, it wasn't long before Ryan was seen publicly with Blake Lively, who at that time was looking to transition from her teen drama days on Gossip Girl into more serious Hollywood roles. From an outside perspective, it almost seemed like a strategic partnership, two good-looking stars bonding in a way that would raise both their profiles, minus the complications of competing A-list statuses. But does that mean Blake Lively is just an accessory to Ryan's brand? Or is there more to the story? Keep watching. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have crafted what appears to be the ultimate Hollywood marriage. They're charming on red carpets, comedic in interviews, and always quick to exchange playful social media jabs. On the surface, it's brand gold, an adorable couple that has turned their real-life union into a marketable asset. Gossip magazines adore them, fans cheer them on, and outlets consistently name them among Hollywood's favorite couples. However, the cracks beneath this perfect veneer are starting to show. Critics argue that no genuinely content pair feels the need to publicly perform their love 24/7. Every time Ryan faces negative headlines, like the makeup artist debacle or a rumored clash with co-stars, there seems to be a new wave of cutesy Instagram banter that distracts fans from the controversy. Some suspect the couple uses these lovey-dovey online spats to gloss over the tension. And it works, at least temporarily. People love a fairy tale romance, and Blake is undeniably charismatic. Ryan's comedic timing meshes well with her witty self-presentation. Yet, if Ryan's controlling streak is as strong as insiders say, it raises the question, how does that manifest in their marriage? Some wonder if Blake's role as the supportive wife is partly an image strategy. She was never as big of a star as Scarlett Johansson, so she may not threaten Ryan's position in the spotlight. On the other hand, her presence alone cements his persona as likable family man, which might shield him from deeper scrutiny of his alleged outbursts on set. It's a cynical view, but Hollywood is known for forging relationships that are mutually beneficial in terms of PR. Is this one of them? And if you think that's the only strategy at play, you haven't heard what some Hollywood heavyweights have said about Ryan's recent movies. When Quentin Tarantino, one of the most respected filmmakers on the planet, makes a dismissive remark about an actor's films, people pay attention. He specifically targeted Ryan's Netflix deals, implying these big-budget streaming projects lacked staying power. Paraphrasing Tarantino's sentiment, Ryan Reynolds has made $50 million on movies I don't even know the names of. Have you seen them? Ouch, that doesn't sound like a casual dig. It's more of a full-scale dismissal of Ryan's entire filmography outside of Deadpool. Gerard Butler took a similar swipe, showing utter ignorance about Ryan's movie-free guy. And even after being told about it, he didn't seem interested. That's hardly an endorsement from a fellow action star who's typically open to celebrating industry colleagues. These comments suggest that Ryan's comedic brand might appeal to mainstream audiences, but not necessarily to the veteran actors and filmmakers who place a high premium on artistry and substance. Then there's Chris Columbus, famed for directing classics like Home Alone and Harry Potter and The Sorcerer's Stone. When Ryan Reynolds pitched the idea for Stoned Alone, a sort of stoner reimagining of Home Alone, Columbus slammed it as an insult to cinema. Suddenly, the comedic persona that once seemed so fresh is looking more like a cheap gimmick to certain industry veterans. And if you start adding up the negative feedback from directors, it becomes clear that Ryan's brand of humor and control doesn't always align with serious creative collaboration. So, if many of Hollywood's elites are unimpressed, how does Ryan still maintain his superstar status? Let's see how he's leveraged his comedic mask to stay relevant. Ryan Reynolds' comedic style relies heavily on sarcasm. That's been his shtick since he first began building buzz in smaller comedies and rom-coms. People labeled him the funny and relatable actor who always had a witty remark. But the repeated use of sarcasm doesn't necessarily make for great humor if it's not backed up by genuine goodwill. A large part of comedy's effectiveness depends on whether the audience believes the comedian is in on the joke with them, not using them as a punchline or humiliating others in the process. According to co-stars like TJ Miller, Ryan crosses that line far too often, especially when the cameras aren't rolling. What was once seen as light teasing is being described as belittling or humiliating commentary. When you peel back the facade, some say there's a man who uses sarcasm as a weapon to underscore his superiority. That might still come across as hilarious to fans online, who only see curated social media posts or staged interviews. But those who worked with him intimately paint a darker picture. Given that repeated word insecure, one can't help but think Ryan doubles down on the comedic one-liners whenever he feels threatened. He might have perfected the Deadpool brand of wisecracks, but even that role could be overshadowing him. Many fans argue that Ryan is Deadpool to the point where they don't see him as capable of deeper range. If he's pinned all his comedic identity on that persona, any challenge to it might cause him to lash out, something we've allegedly seen with the makeup artist, Tim Miller, Morena Baccarin, and multiple other co-workers. So, is he headed for a major fall from grace? Let's explore how Hollywood historically deals with tarnished reputations. Hollywood can be highly forgiving when a star is bankable. Studios often protect the actors who bring in big box office returns, and Deadpool was a massive moneymaker. Ryan also cleverly diversified by purchasing stakes in businesses like Aviation Gen and then selling them off for big profits. He's a savvy marketer, no question about that. But we've seen time and time again that when the public mood shifts, there's often a tipping point, one too big for any PR machine to fully spin. Look at the arc of other Hollywood stars who were once untouchable until stories of toxic behavior surfaced. One by one, powerful allies distanced themselves, refusing to cast them. Directors found the drama too burdensome. Soon enough, their star power started to fade. The same pattern could happen to Ryan Reynolds if the negative narratives keep coming. Possibly, his comedic brand and his business ventures might sustain him for a while, but cracks in an image are tough to patch once they're publicly visible. Already, The fact that multiple insiders have come forward about his controlling demands, along with the meltdown over a makeup artist, is a sign that the protective Hollywood bubble is thinning. When you have Fox News, typically conservative-leaning and not exactly known for picking fights with comedic Marvel actors, spotlighting your meltdown, you know the story has wide-reaching traction. And when well-regarded directors like Tim Miller and Chris Columbus openly criticize your attitude, you can't hide behind comedic tweets forever. What does all this mean for Ryan Reynolds and his future in Hollywood? Let's bring it all together. Ryan Reynolds spent years convincing the world he was the snarky but lovable star who could do no wrong. He made cameo appearances in big-budget films, gained a massive social following, and created a brand so strong that it felt unassailable. On paper, he's the last person you'd expect to be called controlling, angry, or egotistical. But as the old saying goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. We have former colleagues speaking about meltdown threats and vow of silence endings to friendships. We have ex-wives implying he's insecure and passive-aggressive. We have directors bowing out of sequels due to his need for total power. We have star co-workers who say they were humiliated on set in front of entire crews. And we have an alleged blacklisting threat over a makeup mishap. The recurring theme? Ryan Reynolds apparently can't handle being challenged. This might be the era where fans and critics alike begin to see through the comedic veneer. He and Blake Lively still maintain a cheerful online presence, trading quips that go viral on social media. But will that be enough to overshadow the mounting evidence that Ryan's not who we all thought he was? If the pattern continues, and more people in Hollywood step forward with their own experiences, the comedic, nice guy brand could fall apart for good. Even so, Ryan's not the first star to face a scandal. Some come back stronger, others fade into the background, and a few keep soldiering on with loyal fans who defend them no matter what. But the real question is, will Ryan Reynolds choose to address these concerns head-on, or will he keep hiding behind Deadpool's mask? Hollywood loves a comeback story, but it also has a long memory when powerful players step on too many toes. Perhaps we'll see Ryan take accountability. Perhaps we'll see more co-stars and behind-the-scenes professionals speaking out. One thing's for sure, the controversies aren't slowing down, and the carefully crafted image of Ryan Reynolds might never be the same again. What do you think? Is Ryan Reynolds truly a toxic control freak, or just an actor who made a few mistakes under pressure? Does Hollywood need to hold him accountable, or will it simply move on to the next scandal? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Remember to subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood's hidden truths, because in show business, the reality behind the scenes is often far more shocking than anything on screen.